What's up guys, today I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about picking your class in Guild Wars 2. And my god, if there was ever a game that needed a tutorial before picking your class, then this is the one. I'm perfect to tell you about it because I've recently been through it myself, and it was quite an experience. Very interesting and at times very confusing as well. So let's get going. As usual guys, I'm gonna make it very simple, easy and clean for you. Guild Wars 2 has 9 classes. The top row, I'm in the class selection screen. The top row is the classes that wear heavy armor. The middle row is the classes that wear medium armor, and the bottom row are the classes that wear light armor. Yeah, so you can just from this screen you can kind of get to make an idea of what's ahead of you. But this is a game in which you think you know, but you actually don't. Let me tell you a few very important general things about classes, yeah? Each class plays completely different than any other. So it's up to you to, after this video, to actually play these classes. It's really easy to try them out in Guild Wars 2 and to see what fits the best for you. What kind of play style fits you as a player, what does your group need, maybe you're that kind of a person, and how the class feels overall, yeah? Number 2, there is such a thing called the meta. The meta is what combination of classes and weapons works the best in the current patch of the game, in this current moment in time, yeah? With every patch, the meta slightly changes or drastically changes depending on the patch. But yeah, there is such a thing as a meta. I'm gonna link you in the description below a website that actually gives you a very good overview of what is expected of you to play. Having that said, having both of these things said actually, you can customize your class as much as you want to. Guild Wars 2 is a game that gives you a lot of freedom. Even if there is a meta, after you learn that meta, and my personal advice to you would be learn the meta first, learn how to play with the weapons that are in the meta, and then after that, customize the meta or make your own new meta if you think you're that smart. So that's my advice to you. Having that said, it is a game in which you have a million ways of customizing your class to fit more your play style, to fit your groups, etc, etc. Keep in mind though that if you want to play something extremely weird just because the game allows you to, like healing warrior, then you might not get very many friends in PvE and in PvP, because people do expect you to actually play the meta. The meta is something that works the best, and yeah, that's just how it is. Can be easily adjusted though after you learn the game. Also very important to note is that in Guild Wars 2 there is physical damage and condition damage. Depending on the class, you can be more oriented towards doing condition damage or more oriented towards doing physical damage. If you absolutely despise doing physical damage and you're more into, let's say condition damage is the equivalent of magical damage from other games, then definitely pay attention to what class you're picking, what are the, tops for that class, what is your class the best at, physical or condition. Maybe in PvP you want to be up in the guy's face, just doing physical damage non-stop. Maybe that's your thing, then keep that in mind. One other thing, when I'm going to be comparing the DPS of the classes, I'm talking equal gear, equal skill, equal ping for each of them, so don't get it twisted. Let's start with the warrior. We're going to split each class into PvE and PvP. Warrior is a DPS in PvP, DPS in PvE as well. In terms of PvP, warriors are actually pretty badass. They can one-shot people, so it's that kind of a class that has the potential of doing that. Very good in 1 versus 1 on points. Also very good in team fights, so you can do both of these things. Not very good in mobility, jumping around the map. They don't have stealth. That's another thing, maybe you're into that, so keep that in mind. In PvP, they can do a very substantial amount of condition damage, so keep in mind that you sometimes, if you're into condition damage and you play a warrior, you might want to use a bow. They can do very, very good with physical damage as well. So you have a lot of versatility if you're playing a warrior, yeah, with the exception of stealth and super much mobility. In terms of PvE, warriors play DPS as well, somewhere at the bottom of the barrel in terms of how much they can do. But there's nothing to worry about. A good warrior is always going to be accepted in any nice endgame PvE content, yeah? Let's move onwards to Guardian. Pretty confusing class name. For me personally, I thought coming from Aeon that this is gonna be the tanks of the game. Not by far. Guardians in PvP can do condition damage and physical damage, good at both, in the meta at both. In terms of mobility, it's better than the warrior, but not as good as some other classes have it. They are good for 1v1s as well, they are good for team fights. Dragon Hunter, which is the elite specialization for Guardians, is a pretty interesting trait to have. You can do some nice plays on it. You can also be partially supportive to your team in terms of PvP. So overall, a very nice class to play, a very balanced class to play, yeah? Has some pretty interesting mobility skills as well, nice sustain for yourself, that's pretty cool as well, by healing I mean. In terms of PvE, Guardians are DPS as well, they can do condition DPS, physical DPS alike, good at both in terms of PvE. They can also play a supportive role if you're doing 10-man content in terms of raids, that you can, you know, play a more supportive role for all of your raid, but generally it's DPS. In terms of DPS, somewhere exactly in the middle of the barrel compared to other classes, so that's pretty good news for Guardians, yeah? Moving onwards to Revenant, these three are the heavy users, yeah? Revenants are, in terms of PvP, they can do physical damage, that's what they're good at. There is some way to do condition damage as well, but it just doesn't work out with the current patch, so it's gonna be physical. Very good for team fighting, a class that is definitely more mobile than both of the other two heavy armor users. A class that does a nice amount of damage, has a nice amount of CC, and also has a nice amount of supporting. However, think about this, in any MMORPG, when you see a class that has a bit of everything, you can imagine that it's a master of none. So this is the same goes with Revenant. It's not the top damage, it's not the top support, it's not the top healer, it's not the top anything, not top mobility. It's just an all-around good class, yeah? You can make some plays on it, you can be a little bit more mobile than the other two, and so on and so forth, but it's a master of basically none of these traits, but it's good in each. In terms of PvE, Revenants are actually in the middle of the barrel, right behind Guardians there in terms of how much they can output. You don't see extremely many Revenants in, you know, really good endgame PvE groups, but there is a spot for one Revenant per group, yeah? More than one Revenant is a little bit pushing it, because you can get other classes that do a lot more damage or have a lot more support, but one Revenant is really good. Revenants also are really good for supporting in PvE, because they have Nature's Facet. It's a skill that is actually extremely useful to groups in terms of boons, yeah? Nice, let's go to medium armor wearers now. We start with Rangers. Rangers, surprisingly, you would think that you're gonna equip your bow and just start shooting arrows, right? Well, that's actually pretty far from the truth. Rangers in PvP, they can do physical damage and be very supportive. In terms of meta, what is meta? Rangers in PvP are played obviously, you know, as a part DPS and as a really nice support. Not extremely much mobility. I would put them on the same spot as Revenant, but they do have stealth, which is a very good addition, and they have some very good supportive perks in terms of healing and dressing up allies in PvP, yeah? In PvE, you can be a full-time healer, if that's what you wish, or you can be a pretty nice DPS. Rangers are at the top of the barrel in terms of DPS output, and they are really good as healers as well in PvE, so that's a thing you can do. Condition damage is the way to go in the current meta for Rangers in terms of PvE DPS, obviously. So that's a thing that you have to keep in mind, yeah? Almost forgot to mention Rangers, really nice in team fights and really nice to take 1v1s because of their supportive capabilities, self-sustain, yeah? So that's their main role in PvP. Moving onwards to Thief. Thief, very interesting profession, a playmaker. If you've ever played Dota or League of Legends, you know that the mid player, that's the playmaker. So this is the same with Thieves, very much mobility, a lot of stealth, and a great deal of burst damage. However, the downsides are that they are very squishy and not extremely good in team fights. There are some weapons that you can play on a Thief that allow you to actually team fight depending on your team's composition, but even if you are not playing the agile stealthy thief, you're playing more of the fighting thief with a staff, then even those fights, it's better if you would take 1v1s instead of, you know, ginormous Zergy team fights. Other than that, in PvP, very good to have, but kind of complicated to fully understand what your role is and to blend in with your teammates. Yeah, it's a profession that requires quite a high amount of skill, in my personal opinion. In PvE, Thieves are at the top of the barrel in terms of how much damage they output, same as Rangers. And yeah, just DPSs in PvE and in PvP as well. No support capabilities whatsoever besides the ability of giving the group members stealth in both PvE and PvP. So having stealth in PvE also allows you to skip some packs of mobs, make the runs faster for your group. That's as far as supporting on Thief goes, yeah. Moving onwards, Engineer is a very complicated profession. A lot of telegraphs and a lot of buttons if you want to do a proper rotation, at least in terms of PvE. Let me tell you in PvP first though. In PvP, Engineers are the masters of self-sustain and the masters of 1v1s. Basically, Engineer, if you play it to its fullest, you can take any 1v1 and just last there for an eternity until someone comes, helps you, and then it's a quick kill on the other guy. Engineers are really good because of that, to be solo, to stay on nodes. Engineers can team fight as well. Engineers in PvP have a lot of utility as well in terms of raising up people and finishing opponents because of their gyros, yeah. So it's a profession that requires I would say as much skill as on a Thief and as much game knowledge, yeah. Condition damage and physical damage as well works for Engineer. On Thief it's mostly, I forgot to say, on Thief it's mostly physical damage. There is a build for PvE that has, for PvP that has condition damage running, but not very popular. Engineers, condition damage, physical damage, both work just fine in PvP. In PvE, Engineers are somewhere also in the middle of the barrel in terms of how much DPS they can output. They can go with condition damage or physical damage, both working almost as good as each other, with the condition one having a little bit of an edge. Yeah, very interesting class to play. I recommend, with Engineers, I actually recommend that you try it, you see how it works for you, and see if it's something that you can get used to. I myself have this feeling with Engineers that I want to like it, but I don't like it. It's a little bit of a weird feeling, yeah? Moving onwards to the Clothies, Necromancer first. Necromancer is a very nice profession in terms of PvP. Surprisingly, for a Clothy, it can do condition damage and physical damage, so that's really nice. There are PvP builds for both that work as well as the other, so it's really nice to play in PvP. I found myself playing a lot of Necromancer in PvP, and I found it very entertaining, rewarding, and impactful. Yeah, this is what I found doing pugs in PvP. They are the sort of Spirit Master type of class that deals with, that can deal with also pets, curses, removing boons, etc. Very immobile class. Out of all the classes, I would say that Necromancer is the most immobile class in the game. Even Engineer is more mobile than Necromancer, and that's saying a lot because Engineer, even forgot to mention it, not that mobile. Cool. Other than that, in PvP, Necromancer has some great utility as well. Besides the boon removals, there's also some fears involved. There is also lots of AoE, so it's that kind of a class, yeah. Necromancer in PvE, also at the bottom of the barrel, alongside Warriors and Mesmers, which we're gonna talk about in terms of DPS output. One Necromancer is good to have per group. That's not gonna be a problem in you being rejected or anything like that, so it's just how it is. Someone has to be at the bottom of the barrel in terms of how much they can do, and Necromancers are one of the classes that in the current meta are at the bottom, yeah. They can do power damage and condition damage, but obviously in PvE condition damage is a lot more viable than the power build, yeah. Moving onwards to Elementalist, the mage type of class from every other MMORPG. Very many buttons, very many things to press if you want to do it right, as a mage class is in every other game. However, very interesting to know that in PvP, Elementalists are really good to support your group with all sorts of things, including healing, boons, etc. Pretty mobile class, to tell you the truth, and a class that I personally, when I queue up for PvP, I always appreciate having, because your group is a lot more stronger with a good support Elementalist in PvP. If you want to play a DPS Elementalist in PvP, then that's gonna be extremely unique in the current meta, but yeah, I guess it can work in specific situations. Maybe you have two Elementalists in the group, one of them can definitely go as a DPS, yeah. In terms of PvE, Elementalists are #1 damage, so if you're into doing the top damage, then Elementalist is a class that does the top damage. Bar none, an Elementalist basically does almost double the damage in PvE as a Mesmer, so that's a thing to consider, yeah. Nobody really plays supportive Elementalist in PvE, even though they do play it in PvP. One simple reason for that is that they're so good as DPS that it's kind of pointless to play as a support. It's a waste of a spot, yeah. Mesmer, this is a profession that I personally like the most myself. Mesmer in PvP is power, physical based or condition damage as well. You can play actually both. Mesmer is again same as Thief, a playmaker, a class that has lots of utility skills that make it very mobile and very sneaky, let's say it like that, yeah. Has some stealth, same as the Thief, has lots of mobility, same as the Thief, has a very unique play style. I have never seen the same playstyle in any other MMORPG, so I cannot really compare the Mesmer with any other class from other games. Some unique abilities that you have never seen, so it's a very interesting class to play. Doesn't work always, because it requires in PvP your team also to, you know, to be focused around your playstyle and, you know, to do the things that you intend on doing. So with pugs it might not work, but yeah, it is very nice to play, extremely rewarding, takes a lot of skill, in my opinion, same as a Thief, as an Engineer as well. In PvE, at the bottom of the barrel, alongside Warriors and Necromancers, someone has to be there, and Mesmer is one of them. However, I will tell you this, and this is a good transition for the thing that I want to talk about, tanking in this game. If I told you that Ranger is a good healer, yeah, if I told you that Elementalist is a good support, if I told you that Guardian is a little bit supportive to your group members, now let's talk about tankiness also. Every class in the game can actually tank. In this game it's a little bit different. There is no aggro skills or threat skills that, you know, you use on the boss and he goes on you. It's based on other things, and every class can tank if they have enough toughness as a stat. Yeah, toughness gives you armor, and in this game, the more toughness you have, the more chances you have that a boss would actually just, you know, aggro on you. Mesmers are really good as tanks in this game, and this is what they're taken as in raids, for example. In 5-man content, you can take a Mesmer for other reasons. You can take a DPS Mesmer, yeah? One other very important thing about Mesmers is that they bring a lot of really awesome utility skills for their group members. And by that, I mean quickness and alacrity. These are two things that are really important, and Mesmer, as a tanking, let's say, Mesmer can bring fully to the group member. So Mesmer makes the whole group so much better that it's actually really awesome to always have a Mesmer. Even if the Mesmer doesn't do a lot of damage itself, the utility that it brings and the amount by which they make the other group members better is actually phenomenal. So it's really awesome to have it. Nice, I guess we covered all the 9 classes. This was a very simple introduction to the classes for you, so you know what to expect. So you know that when you pick a Mesmer, you're not gonna be standing 50 feet away from the boss, DPSing from a range and being all safe. Yeah, you're gonna be tanking. So you know that when you pick a thief, you're not just gonna go and fight in team fights and be like an assassin type. You're gonna be the playmaker, you know, going to points, mobile and stuff like that. You know that when you pick an Elementalist and you wanna do PvP, it's really awesome if you would be supporting fully in PvP instead of DPSing fully. So, you know, these are the confusing things about the classes that nobody tells you anywhere. There's no graphs, there's no, you know, it's just a basic description. So this is going to be golden for you guys that join Guild Wars and that don't know what classes do. I wish to see more of you in game. I wish you guys lots of love until my next video, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.